I think we just wanted to play fast grind songs that were influenced by things that we experienced in our life and weren't just about, whatever, like fantasies and whatever, like the moon or dungeons or whatever the hell people write about black metal songs about these days.
Welcome to the Dreams of Consciousness podcast. If you'd be so kind, would you mind introducing yourselves?
Yes, my name is S. I play bass and do vocals in the band Gravesend.
My name is G. I play drums in the band Gravesend.
And we may have a third member joining us shortly. But for now, gentlemen, how would you describe the music of Gravesend?
I would say that Gravesend is the stress that you feel walking down the streets of New York City this underlying vibe that's kind of hard to pinpoint, that's just put together through what we call quote unquote bestial war or death metal, black and death, whatever that may be.
Yeah, for me, I would just call it like a mix of kind of our favorite types of extreme metal. So like a mix of the war metal blended with, some grind and black death stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say it's kind of all of our favorite parts of each of those genres manifested just from kind of our environment.
Now, as far as your mix of grind and black and death metal, would you say that your songs are mostly fast? Would you say that they're mostly short?
They're definitely short, but I would say that, we have a lot of, we do a lot of mid-tempo parts, but this, we try to mix it up. There's definitely a lot of fast stuff, but, we try to have a bunch of groove parts. So,
Sure.
Yeah, for sure. I think we started with shorter song structures and shorter songs in general, but it just kind of naturally evolved as we kind of grew as musicians.
And we'll speak about that evolution in a bit. You mentioned the fact that you're based in New York City and that reflects on your sound. I lived in Brooklyn for about 8 years. It definitely changed from when I was living in Bed-Stuy to when I was living in Greenpoint. But, as far as like the anxiety and the grime and that kind of thing that you experience when you're living in, some of the rougher neighborhoods in New York, would you say that has a lot to do with Gravesend's music, either sonically or lyrically?
Yeah, are you asking if one has to do with the other?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say it's a product of like kind of like I mentioned earlier, it was, it's kind of the stress, like it's not something you can pinpoint exactly. It's like, you walk down the streets and it's the chatter, it's the sound of the train, it's the honking, it's the cars, it's kind of all of it, it's not something that's, you know, yeah, sure, there are very rough parts and just opening the New York Post, you can find out what happened in the last 6 hours that will drive you mad and you won't even believe what occurred. But I would say it's like all that stuff kind of comes together to influence our music sonically and also lyrically. I mean, a lot of the stuff we write about, has to do with, yeah, old New York, 70s and 80s, and a lot of history repeats itself, and it's some of the stuff that we see today. But yeah, it definitely, it goes hand in hand in terms of kind of the music being influenced by New York and then vice versa.
G, do you want to add anything to that?
no, I think he basically covered it.
Would you guys mind telling me a little bit about how you got together and what your intentions were for Gravesend when you first started?
What our intentions were when we first started?
Yeah, musically or otherwise. Did you form specifically to make this kind of raw war metal sound, or was it just the intention to start a band, any kind of band?
I mean, I think when we started, I think we just wanted to play fast grind songs that were influenced by things that we experienced in our life and weren't just about, whatever, like fantasies and whatever, like the moon or dungeons or whatever the hell people write about black metal songs about these days. And, like with the earlier stuff, I think it was a lot grindier, it was a lot more raw, it was a lot faster. And, we've kind of evolved a little bit more into what this new record is, which is a little more dynamic, I think. But yeah, I think there was a lot of, we wanted to do a band that sounded like a band that we would want to listen to. So, we listened to a lot of kind of the stuff we were talking about before. So that's kind of what it ended up as.
Yeah, it's a shame A isn't here, but he's got a little bit, I would say maybe of a different story about how this band started, but I'll do my best trying to tell you the story. But it started as a rainy day on a Sunday, and our guitarist was jamming on some riffs at home just out of boredom, and he got together with our drummer and just put together a little demo. And he was listening to it, and it kind of sounded good, and it was something he wanted to explore. And then, oddly enough, little tidbit, he made a 10 tape demo of this song and sent it my way just to see what I would say, but he didn't tell me it was him, and I was super into it. It kind of caught me off guard. I was like, yeah, this is cool. Who are these guys? And he held it out for a pretty long time. Then I figured it was him. So he's like, yeah, this is something I want to do if you're interested. And then we got all together and started jamming on it. I think originally, yeah, maybe War, Grinding, Black Death, or whatever was the root of it. But just kind of expanded from there, from this like little stupid demo tape that caught me off guard.
And those songs that A wrote, was that what eventually became the Preparations for Human Disposal demo?
Yeah, yes. Well, they were reworked. They weren't exactly,
Yeah, some of it.
yeah, verbatim, but yeah, there was a lot of the stuff that was on that little demo tape that we have was just reworked into other songs. In a way, we broke down the songs on there, and it came out to be those 6 songs or however many there was on that demo tape.
So it sounds like you guys were all friends beforehand, but had you played in a band together?
No, I don't think so. No, we didn't.
No, we knew each other. Yeah, we've known each other for maybe a decade now, or even more than that. And we just know each other from going to shows and then, just shooting the shit, sharing music, and, mutual friends brought us together.
You talked about hearing the songs that A wrote and wanting, being interested in being part of it. For you, G, what was it you liked about those songs?
Well, yeah, I mean, I kind of like the vibe of the songs, the like the direction the riffs were going in, the bluntness of it, just how aggressive it is. There's no noise in there, or like, well, and when I say noise, I mean like there's no like filler. So yeah,
I mean, there's some literal noise, right?
yeah. There's literal noise, but I mean like there's no like like throwaway riffs, right? Like it's all really focused. So that's what I liked about it.
It felt like a collage. It was one track, but it was long enough where it felt like it was a collage of riffs, but the balls and the beef was there, and you could kind of see that there's something there. So in a way, it was like a sketch in a notepad that eventually became the demo.
Yeah, Gravesend songs are remarkably, low filler. It's interesting because I've spoken with a number of bands who've been around for a while, and so they're starting to get into that, kind of like progressive direction where they're exploring different things, and so the songs are getting a little bit longer. You know what I mean? And it's cool to hear a band that's keeping things really tight as far as the song structures are still quite simple, and it's really just about the riffs. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I think early in our whatever career or whatever, I would want to push for more. Like if I was really into a riff or something that A was bringing to the table, I would be like, yeah, let's repeat it maybe 2 more times or do something else with it, and I was shut down. keep it going.
Yeah, I was there.
We gotta keep moving.
I was there. Hey guys, just joining.
Hey. What's up, dude?
What's going on? Just chiming in on that one. Yeah, I would put the kibosh on that because I want to keep it simple and dumb.
Exactly.
Hey, we were speaking about the original demos that you wrote for Gravesend. What were your intentions and what was your mindset at the time when you wrote those songs?
I think, we wanted to, we kind of started out as just kind of exploration into a genre I had touched on prior, and turned into something that I actually enjoyed a lot. And then we expanded on it. I think the whole idea was to basically have grind songs rooted in grindcore with bestial Black Death type of vibe to them. And the theme around New York and whatnot came about pretty early on. Initially, we were toying around with different themes, but that one seemed to resonate the most with us.
Now, other than the fact that you guys live in New York, why was that the direction you wanted Gravesend to go in, rather than songs about riding into battle on a horse or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, black metal. Most time you think of black metal, you think of cold, frosty winters in the forest, but that just didn't vibe with the way that we were envisioning. I think just the music kind of spoke to us in a different way that wasn't a traditional black metal, and we weren't really interested in just reinventing the wheel, so to speak.
And as far as keeping things to a trio, was it that the simplicity of your music? Did you want it to just leave it with one guitar?
Yeah, well, I wanted to just streamline the whole process, songwriting process. Less is more, in my opinion, especially for the style of music. Keep it simple. No need. We don't really have that much complex parts that require a second guitar. I would say we don't have complex ripping solos. We have really stupid solos, if you even want to call it that. So I think keeping it a 3-piece, and also the fact that we were just all friends even before this, that was a big element of it. Was just having some buddies that had common interest in music and we know each other. So it worked out. And I think also our personalities, the way that we work together as a unit, kind of helped us move forward in a relatively efficient way.
Yeah, I've never even considered, I never even thought about this band having more than 3 people in it. I think that would be kind of weird.
Exactly.
Weird musically, or weird just to get another person involved?
Yeah.
Because you guys are friends?
Yeah, just because we're friends, and musically also, it's just, like I said, it's like so straightforward and streamlined. I feel like having another cook in the kitchen would just kind of like mess things up.
Yeah, it's easier to make decisions with an odd number of people. I would say that we move really fast, and the dynamic that we have as 3 people in terms of making decisions on all kinds of things, from art to lyrics to riffs, just works. We're like a well-oiled machine. It just works well. It feels like introducing another person, would definitely throw off that mojo that we worked so hard to kind of get together.
So the original demo started with A. You know, it's been a few years since A wrote those songs. Has your songwriting process changed at all in that time?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've all evolved as musicians, and we've all evolved, I think, in our songwriting. I mean, initially, I kind of joke about we're a band of guys who played instruments that are not really the instruments we would play. So we kind of like, I don't normally play guitar. Like I've written a bunch of guitar parts and whatnot, and played occasionally in bands here and there, but it's never like my primary instrument. For G, he plays guitars traditionally. So I think venturing into these new instruments for each of us was kind of interesting. And if you listen to the evolution of from where we were with, I mean, the first song we wrote was Rats Among Us, and the evolution from where we were to what we've done, I think, leaps and bounds. And I never thought that we would probably be writing the songs that we've been writing today.
Yeah, I've been playing guitar my whole life. So for me, playing drums, this is like my first band that I've ever really played drums in. So yeah, the first demo, it's like now I play those blasts from the first demo and it's okay. But I remember recording the demo, I could barely hold it together. But yeah.
Yeah. Gee, I think you and I started playing our instruments around the same time. I think I picked up bass maybe 2 years before this thing became a thing. And I think that you were around the same time, right?
Yeah, something like that. Basically around the same time.
Yeah, it's funny, not to compare us to the Ramones, but I think I read somewhere once that the Ramones were in the same camp, but they didn't know how to play their instruments. They just wanted to be in a band, and they just picked up whatever instruments looked good to them and started the Ramones, and that became what it became.
Classic punk story.
Yeah.
I mean, no disrespect to the Ramones, but playing drums in a grindcore war metal band for the first time is a hell of an ask. Gee, were you sure you could pull it off?
No. I think during lockdown I had a lot of free time, so I spent a lot of time on my practice pad at home. But yeah, I was not confident that I could do that, but I feel pretty good about it now.
Yeah, and I think we would I think I would at least drill G on playing it faster.
Yeah.
And then we'd constantly go back and forth on, well, are you going to play a traditional blast beat, or are you going to play what he calls
not this again.
the duck blast beat? But we're not going to get too deep into that.
Yeah, are we going to have this conversation again?
For the drummer, save it for the drummer podcast. Sickdrummer.com.
Well, we do talk about like process and technique a lot on this podcast. So, I mean, traditional blast beat versus like, are you talking like single foot?
Yes.
Double pedal starting with?
Yeah. So
the snare on the one, that kind of thing?
Yeah. So I play single foot blast just because it's easier for me to line in my head, because I play with my right foot for almost everything and I'm not that ambidextrous. So it's easier for me to just like have the beat on the right foot. Also, I don't use triggers or anything, so I'm definitely pretty conscious of the fact that my left foot is not going to be as hard hitting as my right, so I want the blast to be loud, so I do it single foot. But obviously there's a ceiling to doing it single foot, but it's not like I'm going over 200 BPM anyway, so I think once I start getting to 220 or something like that, then maybe I'll start doing 2 foot blasts. But for now, it's honestly harder for me to try and do it 2-footed, just because you gotta keep your right hand in time with both feet while you're doing it. It's too weird for me. So anyway, that's my spiel. I don't want to get into a single foot versus 2-foot blast beat argument here.
No worries. I mean, this is the place to do it if you guys wanted to hash it out. But in terms of your songwriting, are things still starting with A's riffs, or do you guys all write individually and come together in the rehearsal space?
Yeah, that I would say 90% of it. And then a lot of times we'll write things on the fly. So I mean, it does start with a guitar riff, and then say like, okay, G, like play this drum or play this rhythm over it, or he'll just get it, obviously. And yeah, I'd say like maybe 80% of the songs I come to practice with somewhat of an idea, and then 20% of them are just off the cuff. And to be honest, I think some of our best songs are written off the cuff for whatever reason.
Yeah. I think End of the Line was one that we wrote off the cuff. Pretty sure.
Yeah. There was a few of them.
Yeah.
And as far as the style that you guys are known for, when you're arranging songs, is it a point to keep things simple and to keep things short?
I think that's just kind of how my brain works when I write music. I don't think in terms of very complex structures. I just think in terms of just grindcore format, essentially. Play this one 4 times. Usually, it's like play a blast beat 4 times and play a D beat 4 times and then play that same blast beat 4 times and then do a little breakdown and then the song's done. That's kind of how my brain works. I try to step out of that and get a little bit more creative or dynamic, I guess. And I think some of that's kind of captured in our newer record.
So let's talk about that newer record. It's called Gowanus Death Stomp, and it will be released at the end of October through 20 Buck Spin. When did you guys start working on this album?
I think we started writing it pretty much right after we finished the other record. I don't think we had any sort of stop.
We did, but it was slightly derailed because we ended up doing a couple tracks for a Decibel Flexi.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and in fact, we actually recorded 4 songs that we were going to put on the Flexi, but we decided to just put 2 of them on the Flexi, and then those other 2 ended up being on Gowanus Death Stomp. But I think we've been working on it in total for, I guess, since, right after, March of 21. It's been a couple of years.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, I think once it all came together, we recorded it and got everything together within about a month's time. We were pretty quick once it was all packaged up. Musically speaking, it was pretty fast start to finish, but overall probably closer to 2 years for sure.
And we spoke a little bit about how your sound has evolved since the first album. How would you compare Gowanus Death Stomp to Methods of Human Disposal?
I would say it's definitely overall, it's just it's a darker, more gritty sounding record. Production is definitely less polished, but I think it's definitely less polished. We play a lot faster. There's a bit of groove that we kind of added to this record, and I'd say there's definitely a heavy dose of Black Death that we dabbled in there as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely more of the same. It's not like we're playing a different genre on the record or anything, but I think we just are doing even more of what we've been trying to do, right? So we have more, we're just trying to push ourselves even further into the direction we want, right? So there's a lot faster parts, there's a lot more changes. The groovier parts are groovier, slow parts are slower. It's just more, we're just trying to be as extreme as we can, with in the box that we've created.
S, what about you?
Yeah, I would say that this record is more, comparing it to Methods, it's more, I guess, bookended, and to me, it feels like if I were to be reading a book, it gets wrapped up by the last chapter. I think on Methods we just had a lot of ideas, and we were, we threw them out there, and it became the record that it became. But this record, there's so much thought and there's so much detail. With as simple as we are, it's a very deep record, and for us at least, it's like there's little things that I'm proud of that we didn't do on the first record. So I just think it's more mature, it's more focused, it's zoned in comparing it to the first record.
And as far as more focused and more zoned in, is that just a result of you guys working together for a few years?
Yeah, I think so. I think we kind of got used to the songwriting structure. Like at first you have to build that base layer, and then after writing the demo and then methods, we kind of established a baseline. Okay, this is kind of how we work, and we just become more functional and efficient, and then that gave us the room to kind of breathe and explore a little bit more within our parameters.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think with any band, the longer you write together, kind of like the better you get at kind of, riffing off each other and figuring out where to go with it. And I think this record is more of that, right? Like, we've become more comfortable with each other writing, and we figured out what we want with the music. And, this is kind of where it ended up.
We mentioned it briefly at the beginning of our chat, but Gravesend has some noise and atmospheric elements. I don't think it's correct to call them ambient. They're quite harsh and unsettling, but it's been a part of your sound since the first album. Who works on those, and what's the intention behind those?
Yeah, I mean, S and I work on that. We just refer to it as kind of our synth tracks. We wanted to complement the music with a soundscape that captures the anxiety and violence of and unsettling eerie feeling that you get in watching old movies about New York from the 70s, or even just like riding the train at night, or just being in a crappy neighborhood. Maybe there's an threatening element to New York. There's a dirty, disgusting underbelly to the city, and we wanted to capture that. And I think through these synth tracks and nodes, it helps overlay that. And not to say that it's not supposed to be like a node to any horror themes or horror movies, but try to capture the element of a horror theme in general, I guess, or not horror theme, or a violent theme. And I think that the synth kind of complements that.
Yeah, for sure. I think you touched up a lot on it, but it's just to create this stress. And when I think of stress in like say in a movie like Uncut Gems or any kind of the Safdie brothers movies, they portray New York. I know it's they make contemporary movies, but what they do visually and also with their music, recreating that stress that they experience from New York is kind of where the inspiration for the synth comes from. So like if you take that and you mix it with say like a 70s, 80s, even 90s kind of, like the dungeon synth world and all that stuff, it's kind of a conglomeration of those two worlds for me combining. And yeah, I think we've definitely made an effort with the as no surprise, there will be more synth stuff on this record. We definitely made a conscious effort to make it way more stressful than the first record.
Where did you guys end up recording the album?
We recorded with Arthur Rizk in Philly. He has a studio that he works out of that's right near South Street. So we all went down there and recorded it over, I think, course of 4 days. I think we were slated for 5 days, but we did it before.
Yep, exactly.
Did you guys record live?
No, we did not.
Okay.
We did each individual track.
There's a scratch track, and then I don't know if we ended up using any of the scratch tracks. But yeah, no, it's mostly instrument by instrument.
So Arthur's name has come up a bit in the last few months on this podcast. Why Arthur? I know you guys worked with him on your previous recordings, but what do you like about working with him, and why did you head to his studio this time around?
Well, before we worked with a buddy of ours, Nolan, on the demo and the track for the decibel Flexi, and we also we tracked methods with Nolan, but we had Arthur mix it, and I think we were just all really blown away. Obviously, like Arthur, he's such a staple name in this genre, but once we heard his mix on methods, we were like, okay, this is, he could really just elevate what we're trying to accomplish here. And he also offered, after we recorded methods, he's like, I really want to do the whole thing for you guys. So we're pretty excited about that, because we just love all this, everything he touches pretty much. And I think it was just a natural progression from like having him mix our work and then just have him do the whole thing.
Yeah, previously, he just did the mixing and we would master with other people but for this one, he did everything. He did the tracking, mixing, and mastering, which is interesting because, I've never worked with anyone who did all of it like that. And, he's got a vision for what the record could sound like, and, he knows what he wants and he's really good at it. He understands kind of the vibe that we're going for. So, it just seemed like a really good fit.
I mean, producing, this style of very raw grind war metal can be tricky, because to a certain extent you want something extremely raw, right?
Yeah, and that's the beautiful thing about what Arthur does. I think he's able to take something extremely nasty and raw sounding, but make it audible, make it fun to listen to.
Yeah, it's not like there's any question. It's not like anybody has any question that he's not going to know kind of the vibe we're going for with him, right? Like he has so much experience in the genre, recording, all these extreme bands, that he's going to know exactly, he knows exactly what we want, and he knows how to pull out the right sounds out of the drums, the right sounds out of the guitars, while also making it still feel raw and stuff. But it was, yeah, he's really good at that, getting the sound that we want, keeping it raw while still being audible.
Did you want to say anything about working with Arthur? What you liked about working with Arthur, S?
Yeah, I just think he was super level-headed and just easy and a joy to work with. Like, I think G just touched on it. If you had a question about something, he would just immediately know the answer. And just watching him work was its own, like, he would kind of edit as we went along, and it was just fascinating.
What would you say his approach to recording is? I mean, obviously with something like Gravesend, it's not going to be clarity, right?
What was that you said is not going to be priority?
Clarity?
Clarity.
Or is clarity still important for you guys?
No, I think it is. I think we like to strike the right balance. It being gritty and raw, but also audible. And I think he does a really, really beautiful job with that. He did ask us, he's like, oh, what do you guys want this to sound like? Do you have any inspirations for what you think it'll sound like? But I think at the end of the day, we would kind of trust his opinions about a lot of different elements of the recording, whether it be adjusting some of the tones, the guitar tones, even like, tuning the drums to a certain way, or, even some of his inputs as far as like, I wouldn't say like songwriting per se, but he would definitely put his opinion in where he thought it was warranted. And we were open to hearing his thoughts on it. And I think that it created something special because of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think even down to the structure of recording. And if you remember this, we did vocals in the middle instead of at the end, which is what you would traditionally do.
That's right. Yeah, that was definitely a departure from anything I've ever done.
Yeah, and it was smart. The reason why you wanted to do it, so in case your voice goes, it's not the last day and you're scrambling, you can kind of come back to it. And in a way, doing the vocals earlier in the session kind of put the songs together. It felt like the songs were completed earlier, in the process, and it made for me personally easier to track the bass, hearing the vocals and it sounding more complete.
And so when Arthur asks you what your inspiration is or what you want the album to sound like, what was your answer?
Well,
how do we answer that?
We'll keep that one. We'll keep that one. We'll keep that one close to our chest.
Okay, fair enough. So by the time people hear this podcast, Gowanus Death Stomp will be out through $20 Spin. Gentlemen, please tell people how they can order the album. What's the best way to get it?
Yeah, I think $20 Spin records.com, or actually no, $20spin.com. The best way to find our record, or at Bandcamp and search for $20 Spin.
And do you want to say anything about the vinyl versions that $20 Spin is putting out?
Yeah, so the record's going to be out on vinyl, CD, cassette tape, and digital, obviously. We're doing the first few variant colors. We have the vinyl on black, lime green, cloudy Kelly green, and then also we have this transparent or translucent lime green with black and silver splatter, I believe it is. So each of them are pretty limited runs. So once they sell out, they're pretty much gone.
Yeah, for sure. And I was just to touch up on the linkage to put it all together. We also just launched some new merch. But if you guys check out linktree.com/Gravesend, we'll have all the links in there. Merch, the old record, the new record, eventually shows. So linktree.com/Gravesend.
And as far as finding out about the tour dates and things like that, how can people follow you guys online?
We're most active on Instagram and occasionally on Facebook as well. But Instagram is probably the best place to follow what we're doing.
War for Gravesend. That's the screen name or whatever the kids are calling it. The handle. There you go.
That's your @?
Yeah, at War for Gravesend. That'll be on Instagram.
Maybe early next year, early 2024, you might have something?
Yeah, exactly. Yep. We're planning something in late February, I guess. So.
Is there anything else you guys want to say?
Thanks a lot, man. Thank you for supporting the underground and taking your time to talk to us. Really, really appreciate it. Glad we got to make this work.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. Dave, who helped coordinate this, sent me your first album as well, and I've always liked what you guys have done. So it's very cool to have you guys on the podcast.
Thanks so much.
Cool. Thanks, man. Looking forward to hearing it. Yeah, for sure.
Take care, guys.
All right. Cheers.